Chapter 1. Wiltspoon's hot weather in October was a killer. Still, the mornings and evenings were eased by the late autumn breeze. Serenity Hunt got up first thing in the morning to make breakfast for her sister's family of 3. She then grabbed her birth certificate and slipped away in the silence. "We're going Dutch from now on, and I'm talking about everything: the living expenses, the mortgage, and auto Jones. Your sister should be splitting the cost since she's staying at our place." "Sure, she pays $2,000 a month, but it doesn't stretch very far. She's basically mortgaging off us." Serenity overheard her brother-in-law's comment during the couple's argument last night. She had to move out of her sister's place. However, there was only one way to put her sister's mind to rest, and that was to get married. Since Serenity wanted to tie the knot on short notice without ever having had a boyfriend, she decided to take up on Grandma May's offer. Serenity had saved the old lady by chance, and came to know that Grandma May was trying to marry off her grandson, Zachary York, who had trouble settling down. 20 minutes later, Serenity got off to her pit stop at City Hall. "Serenity." A familiar voice summoned her attention the moment she got out of the car. It was Grandma May. Grandma May. As Serenity hurried over, she took notice of a towering yet distant figure standing next to Grandma May. He must be Zachary, her husband-to-be. At a closer distance, Serenity was dumbstruck after getting a load of Zachary's face. According to Grandma May, her eldest grandson, Zachary had no luck with the ladies despite hitting 30. Needless to say, Grandma May was worried sick. Serenity had always assumed that he must be hideous. After all, she heard that Zachary had a high-paying job up the corporate ladder in a major group. Now that they had met face to face, Serenity realized that she had gotten it all wrong. Zachary was attractive and carried himself with an air of aloofness. Standing next to Grandma May with a sour face, he appeared standoffish and gave off vibes to stay away from him. Serenity's gaze strayed to a black MPV parked nearby. Judging by the logo, it was a national car rather than some multi-million-dollar vehicle. Serenity deduced that the economic difference between her and Zachary was not that far off. She and an old friend from school had started a bookshop at the entrance of Wiltspoon School. During her free time, Serenity would also knit little knick-knacks to sell online. The sales were not too bad. In a month, she could bring home a steady income of $20,000. The same amount in Wiltspoon would position her among the white collars. That was why she could afford to hand her sister $5,000 for living expenses. Nevertheless, her brother-in-law had no clue about her earnings. Serenity told her sister to pocket $3,000 and only disclose the remaining $2,000 to her husband. "Serenity, this is my oldest grandson, Zachary. He's a 30-year-old man and can't even get himself out there. Although he's not the warmest person, he's attentive and considerate. You saved my life, and we've known each other for 3 months. Trust me that I won't recommend a bad man to you." Taking in his Nana's description of him, Zachary looked askance at Serenity, icily and profoundly without saying a word. Perhaps he had grown immune to her grumbles. Serenity knew that Grandma May had 3 sons, and each gave her 3 grandsons, blessing her with 9 grandsons. since a granddaughter was missing in Grandma May's life, she sought that affinity with Serenity. Although blushing, Serenity openly extended her right hand to Zachary and introduced herself with a smile. "Hello, Mr. York. I'm Serenity Hunt." Zachary's penetrating gaze scanned Serenity from head to toe and back. With Nana clearing her throat, he ached out his right hand for a shake, albeit his voice reflected an icy tone. "Zachary." After the handshake, Zachary raised his left hand to look at the time before informing Serenity. "I'm a busy man. Let's get it done and over with." Serenity hummed in acknowledgement. Grandma May jumped in. "Go on inside to sort out the paperwork. I'll wait for you here. Nana, get into the car." "It's a hot day out," Zachary said as he helped Nana into the car. Through his actions, Serenity was able to agree with Grandma May's statement that Zachary might be callous, but his heart was in the right place. Although they were strangers, Grandma May mentioned that Serenity could move out of her sister's place into an apartment Zachary owned and paid for in full after the marriage. It could reassure her sister that Serenity was in good hands and end the arguments in the apartment because of her. It was only a marriage of convenience. Soon, Zachary returned to Serenity's side and uttered, "Let's go." "Sure." Serenity quietly followed him into City Hall. At the registry office, Zachary urged Serenity. "Ms. Hunt, you can still change your mind if you don't want to go through with this. It doesn't matter what my Nana says. Marriage is a huge commitment, not to be taken lightly." He was hoping Serenity had second thoughts, because he had no intention of marrying a woman he had just met. Chapter 2. I won't back out on a promise. It took Serenity a few days to consider before reaching a decision. Now that she had made up her mind, she was not going to go back on her word. There was nothing more Zachary could say at that point. He took out his document and placed it in front of the officer. Serenity did the same. The pair swiftly went through the formalities in less than 10 minutes. Once the officer issued the marriage license, Zachary fished out a bunch of keys from his pocket and gave them to Serenity. He said, "The house I bought is in Brinfield. Nana told me that you own a bookshop near Wilt Spoon School. My place isn't too far from your workplace. It'll take a town 10 minutes by bus. Do you have a driver's license? If you do, you can get a car. I can help with the down payment, while you will be responsible for the monthly payment. It'll be easier for you to commute to work. I can get very busy at work, so you won't see me much. There will be business trips too. Don't mind me. Just look after yourself. I'll wire the household expenses to you on the 10th of every month when the salary is out. One more thing. For convenience's sake, we should keep our marriage a secret for the time being." Zachary must have held a high rank in the office, because he went on and on without giving Serenity a chance to speak. Serenity only said yes to the marriage, so she did not become the reason for arguments between her sister and her brother-in-law. Marriage was Serenity's ticket out of the house, while still giving her sister peace of mind. It was only a marriage of convenience. With Zachary handing her the keys to the house, she gladly accepted them. "I have a driver's license, but a car isn't in my plans right now. I usually get to work on an e-bike." I just replaced the batteries on the bike, so it would be a shame not to ride it. Mr. York, are we splitting the bills? Despite her sister and brother-in-law marrying for love, her brother-in-law proposed to go Dutch as if her sister was taking advantage of him. It took a lot of time and effort to care for a child, get groceries, cook, and manage house chores. A man who had never been through it himself would think their wife had it easy at home with simply caring for a child, cooking, and cleaning. Since she and Zachary had never met prior to signing the papers, Serenity would feel more at ease if they went. Halves. Without a second thought, Zachary replied sullenly, I have the means to support my wife and our little family. No need to share the costs. Serenity smiled. All right then. She was not one to freeload without contribution. Whatever was needed in the house, Serenity planned to pay it out of her pocket. Serenity was already saving on rent anyway. It was all about the give and take, as well as mutual understanding to live together in harmony. Zachary lifted his left arm to look at the time before saying to Serenity, I need to get back to work. You can take my car home or hail a cab. I'll reimburse the fare. I'll drive Nana to my brother's that reminds M&E. Let's exchange numbers to reach one another. Serenity took out her phone and saved his contact. I'll get a cab. I should leave you to your work. Okay. Call me if you need me. Prior to leaving, Zachary gave her $200 for the cab, but Serenity refused. However, she immediately grabbed the money when he scowled. Zachary walked on ahead instead of stepping out of City Hall together with Serenity as newlyweds. He made a beeline to his car. Where's my granddaughter-in-law? Seeing that only his grandson made it out, Grandma May asked skeptically, You went in together. Why didn't you leave together? Did you change your mind, or did Serenity change hers? Zachary fastened his seat belt before pulling out the marriage license. Turning around, he gave the license to Nana. We got the papers. I need to hurry back for a meeting at the office. Illinois drive you up to the crossroad ahead. The bodyguard will take you home. Gave her $200 to get a cab. You shouldn't ditch Serenity, no matter how busy you are. Hold on. Don't drive until Serenity is out. You can return to work once you take her back. Grandma May wanted to get off, but the door was locked. Gran, I married her as you wished, but you can't dictate everything else I do. I'm the one living with her, so it's my call. I'll observe on my own time and be the judge of her character. I won't make the marriage official if she doesn't pass the test. Grandma May murmured. Divorce is not an option in our family. Well, that depends on whether you've picked a wife who's worth spending the rest of my days with, Zachary remarked as he started the car. Punk. No husband would act like this. How could you drive away and abandon your bride right after you got married? Grandma May knew that since her oldest grandson had made the biggest concession by marrying Serenity, he refused to budge in other matters. It was not like she could do anything about it. Her grandson might make Serenity a grass widow if Grandma May pushed him too far. Serenity would be the victim in all of this. Zachary let his Nana tear into him. He would make Serenity happy if she deserved it. Had she been lying to Nana and putting up a facade, Zachary would divorce her 6 months later. Serenity could still find another man since he kept the marriage under wraps and had no plans for sexual contact. After driving for 10 minutes, he pulled over at an intersection. There were a few luxury sedans parked there. One of them was a Rolls-Royce. Zachary pulled up by the road and got down from the car before tossing the keys to an awaiting bodyguard. He instructed, "Take the old Mrs. home. I'm not going back. I want to stay with you and spend time with my new granddaughter-in-law. Grandma may put up a fuss." Nevertheless, her darling grandson had got into the Rolls-Royce, turning a deaf ear to her protests. She scheduled only watch as her oldest grandson drove off in the luxury sedan. Zachary was, in fact, the mover and shaker of Wiltspun's corporate world. He was the heir to the richest family in Wiltspun, with a net worth of $100 billion. Ruthless B** starred. Grandma May cussed her grandson out and muttered under her breath bitterly, "Teal wait for karma to strike when you fall in love with Serenity." No amount o' flanger could get her grandson back here. By the time Grandma May picked up the phone to call Serenity, the latter was sitting in a cab on her way home. "Serenity, Zach is swamped with work. Don't take it to heart." Feeling the marriage license that was stuffed in her pocket, Serenity answered, "I can understand, Grandma May. I don't mind it at all. Don't feel bad. He's paying for my fare. I'm already on my way home. You're married to Zach now. Am I still Grandma May to you?" Serenity was caught in a daze for a moment before calling her Gran. The old lady happily accepted the new title. "We're a family now, Serenity. Tell me if Zach ever picks on you. I'll have your back." It took forever for her grandson to get a wife. There was no way Grandma May would allow him to step all over Serenity. Chapter 3. "I will, Nana," Serenity casually responded. Although Grandma May was nice to her, Zachary was her blood relative, while Serenity was only related to the family by marriage. Serenity found it hard to believe that the Yorks would stand by Serenity during a conflict between her and Zachary. Such was the case with her sister's parents-in-law. Before marriage, the in-laws were nothing but good to Liberty to the point their birth daughter was jealous. It was a different story after the wedding. Every time Liberty got into a disagreement with her husband, Hank, her mother-in-law would get on Liberty's case about being a bad wife. In short, the son was always family while the daughter-in-law remained as an outsider. "You must be heading to work, so I should get out of your hair. I'll get Zach to get you home for dinner tonight. Nana, I'm closing the shop pretty late at night. I probably won't be able to make it. Can we reschedule for the weekend?" The school was off on weekends. Since the bookshop's livelihood depended on students, business was slow on days when school was out. She would have time and no need to set up shop during such occasions. "Sure," Grandma May thoughtfully added, "the weekend it is." "Go on with your work then." The old lady hung up the call. Instead of heading straight to the shop, Serenity sent a text message to her best friend, Jasmine Socks, that she would make it back before the last school bell rang. With one major milestone ticked off her list, Serenity had to let her sister know and move out of her place. About 10 minutes later, Serenity arrived at her sister's home. Hank had gone to work while Liberty was hanging clothes out to dry on the balcony. Seeing that Serenity was home, Liberty expressed her concern. "Why are you back at this hour, Seren? Is the shop closed today? I go when it's busy in the afternoon. Is Sonny awake yet?" Sonny was Serenity's nephew. The boy was currently in his terrible twos. "Not yet. The house won't be this quiet if he's awake." Serenity asked about last night as she helped with the laundry. "Seren, Hank isn't trying to kick you out. He's simply under a lot of stress. It's not like I'm working," Liberty clarified for her husband. Serenity kept to herself, knowing well that it was Hank's covert attempt to throw her out. Hank earned a lot as a manager in a firm. Liberty met him in college and was working in the same firm. When they got married, the man lovingly said to Liberty, "I'll take care of you. Just stay at home and rest. I need you rested and healthy if we're going to have a baby." Believing she had found the right man, Liberty quit her job and became a housewife. She gave birth to a lovely son a year into the marriage and had no time to dress up between caring for a child and managing housework. Liberty paid no thought to watch her figure, nor could she break free from her routine and return to the workplace. Fast forward 3 years, Liberty went from a young and beautiful woman to an overweight and unkempt housewife with no time to spare for herself. Serenity was 5 years younger than her sister. Their parents passed away in a car accident when Serenity was 10. Since then, Serenity and Liberty only had each other. The compensation from their parents' accident would have been enough for the sisters to complete their studies, but the grandparents from both sides of the family wanted a piece of it. With what was left, the sisters had to scrimp and save to pull through college. Since the grandparents proceeded to hog the family home, Serenity and her sister resorted to renting. Their renting days were finally over when Liberty walked down the aisle. Liberty absolutely adored Serenity and talked to her then husband to be about living with Serenity after marriage. The man was quick to say yes about taking Liberty and Serenity as a one-package deal, but his resentment was beginning to rear its ugly head. "TM sorry, Liberty. I'm a burden to you, no Seren. Don't think that way. Mom and Dad left us too soon. I'm all you got." Serenity was deeply moved. As a child, Serenity could always count on her sister, but now it was her turn to be Liberty's rock. After a brief silence, Serenity took out the marriage license and showed it to Liberty. She said, "I'm married, Liberty. I just signed the papers and came back to let you know. I'll be packing up and moving out in a bit." "You got married?" Liberty's voice turned high-pitched, almost to a screech. Staring at Serenity in disbelief, Liberty snatched the marriage license for a closer inspection. There was her sister's name alongside a stranger's name on the papers. Attached was a photo of the newlyweds. "What's this about, Serenity? I thought you didn't even have a boyfriend." The man in the photo was good-looking, but his piercing eyes and callous lines along his facial features were telltale signs that he would not be the easiest person to get along with. While on the way back, Serenity had a story all thought out. She answered, "I have been in a relationship for quite some time. His name is Zachary." He was always busy with work, so he could never reach Timna to come meet you. He proposed, and I said yes. Then, we went to get our marriage license at City Hall. He's a great man, Liberty. He's good to me. Don't worry. I'll have my happily ever after. Liberty had a hard time buying the story. She had never heard of a boyfriend in Serenity's life. Yet, the latter was telling her now that she got a ring on her finger. Serenity must have overheard the fight last night. Upset, Liberty teared up and remarked, "Seren, I told Hank you paid for groceries. Feel free to stay with us. Fears no need to rush to marry or move out." Liberty bet Serenity had not known her boyfriend for long. Otherwise, Serenity would not have waited until Rue to tell her. The sudden decision to get a marriage license was because Hank believed Serenity overstayed her welcome. Serenity was in a hurry to give herself away before Liberty's marriage was on the rocks. With a smile, Serenity comforted her sister. "Liberty, you got nothing to do with it. My relationship with Zachary is very strong. I got my happy ending. You should be happy for me." Liberty could not stop the tears from rolling down her cheeks. Serenity helplessly embraced her sister until Liberty cried her heart out and calmed down. Serenity made a promise to Liberty. "I'll visit you often, Liberty. Zachary's house is in Brinfield, not far from yours. It takes me 10 minutes on the e-bike." What's the situation with his family? As the marriage was sealed, Liberty had no choice but to accept it. She went on to dig further about her new brother-in-law. Serenity did not know much about the Yorks. Although she had known Grandma May for 3 months, Serenity never pried into the family's private affair and often lent an ear to Grandma May. All she knew was that Zachary was the oldest in the family and had a lot of younger brothers, including cousins. Zachary had a job in one of Wiltspun's finest companies. He was doing pretty well for himself as he owned a house and car. Serenity told the little information she knew to her sister. Having heard that Zachary had no debt on the house, Liberty asked, "That's his prenuptial property. Seren, can you get him to add your name to the title deed?" At least, Serenity would be covered if her name was on the deed. Chapter 4. You said it yourself, Liberty. It's his prenuptial property. It doesn't make sense to add my name to the title deed, since I didn't pay a penny for the house. I think we should forget about it. Zachary did Serenity a huge favor by handing her the keys to the house the moment they got married. She could move in right away, solving her housing predicament. Serenity was not going to request that of Zachary. Of course, she would not refuse if Zachary added her name on his own accord. Now that they were husband and wife, Serenity made up her mind to spend the rest of her life with him. It was just a passing mention by Liberty, but knowing her sister, who was self-reliant and not driven by greed, Liberty did not dwell on the matter. After a series of interrogations, Serenity successfully moved out of her sister's place. Liberty wanted to drop her off at Brinfield, but Sonny happened to wake up. The little guy was crying for his mama the moment he opened his eyes. "You should attend to Sonny. I don't have a lot of stuff. I can move them myself." Liberty needed to feed her son and get a start on lunch. Her husband would call her out for doing nothing at home should he return with no food on the table. Left with no choice, Liberty said, "Be careful on the road. Are you coming here for lunch? Bring your husband along. I need to get to the shop in the afternoon, so I can't make it for lunch. My husband has his plate full at work. He's going away for business in the afternoon, so it might be some time before I can bring him to meet you." Serenity lied. She knew nothing about Zachary, but Grandma may mention that his life revolved around work. He would sometimes go out of town for business, away for days on end. Without a concrete idea of when Zachary would be free, Serenity did not make a commitment in case she could not keep it. "He's going on a business trip the same day he got married." Liberty found Zachary to be inconsiderate toward Serenity. "We've only got our marriage license and not the wedding. The way I see it, he should go on these trips and make more money since the expenses will pile up. I should get going, Liberty. Go and feed Sonny." Serenity waved her sister and nephew goodbye before hauling her suitcase down the stairs. She had heard about Brinfield, but never entered the neighborhood before. She hailed a cab and went straight to Brinfield. Once there, it then occurred to Serenity that she forgot to ask Zachary the floor his place was on. Serenity pulled out her phone to call Zachary, but he might not pick up since he was at work. Still, she decided to call him through WhatsApp. Zachary was in a meeting. Everybody in the conference room had set their phones to silent mode as no personal calls could be taken during this time. He had also muted his phone. As his phone was put on the table, Zachary quickly noticed the incoming call from Serenity. Zachary did not save her contact when they exchanged numbers. With Serenity's profile name, Mermaid in the Deep Blue Sea, popping out on WhatsApp, Zachary canceled the unidentified call without a second thought. He then blacklisted Serenity's number. In the dark about Zachary's act, Serenity went on to try messaging since he was not picking up. Serenity: "Mr. York, I'm at Brinfield now, but I don't know which floor your place is on." Serenity typed the message and tapped send, only to find that her text could not reach the number. She stared blankly at the screen of her phone. "Why can't I reach his number? We exchanged numbers at City Hall. Did I get the number wrong?" Serenity mumbled to herself as she thought hard and long about whether there was a gap in her memory. Having determined she got the right number, Serenity arrived at one possibility. Zachary had blacklisted her number. Did he forget that they just got married? Truth be told, she would have drawn a blank too about I having a husband if she were to continue iving with her sister. Serenity later called Grandma May. After reaching Grandma May on the phone, Serenity uttered, "Nana, I moved out of my sister's place, and I'm now at Brinfield. Booty don't know Mr. York's." Do you know what floor Zachary's place is on?" Grandma York was speechless. "Hang on, Serenity. I'll call Zach right now." The old lady had no clue either. The house and car were bought recently so Zachary could vet Serenity out. Grandma May only found out now that her oldest grandson bought a house at Brinfield after the couple got their marriage license. Grandma May ended the call and wasted no time getting a hold of Zachary. After blacklisting his bride's number, Zachary put the phone back on the table and carried on with the meeting. Less than 3 minutes later, his mobile screen lit up. Seeing that it was Nana, Zachary accepted the call. "I'm in a meeting, Nana." Zachary's husky voice came through. "Anything can wait until I get home." "Zach, what's the unit number of the place you bought at Brinfield?" "Serenity's there now, but she doesn't know where the place is specifically." "Don't you have her number?" "Go and tell her." Zachary raised his sleek brow. Oh. Now he remembered. He got hitched today to a woman he had never met but Nana was deeply fond of. He believed her name was Serenity. Moments ago, Zachary had blacklisted his wife's number. "Nana, tell her it's apartment 808 on the 8th floor of Block B." "Sure. I'll let her know." "Carry on with your meeting." The old lady was a brisk character, hanging up the call and passing the message to Serenity. Zachary stared at his phone in silence for a moment before taking Serenity out of the banned contacts. He saved Serenity's contact and sent her an apologetic text message. "Zachary, I'm sorry. I forgot who you were earlier." Serenity did not take the incident to heart. Grandma May's sons and daughters-in-law thanked Serenity personally when the latter saved their mother's life. By the time the grandchildren made it to the hospital for a visit, Serenity was long gone. Hence, it was hard for Zachary to keep track of a stranger like Serenity. Even though Nana had mentioned Serenity more than a few times, Zachary paid no mind and attached no importance to it. He could barely remember Serenity's name. "Serenity, it's fine. Just do your thing. I'm moving my stuff up the stairs." "Zachary, do you need help?" "Serenity, I only have a Sutka SE. I can move it myself. Besides, are you going to come back and help if I really need it?" Zachary, no. He had a busy schedule. How could he find the time to help her move? Serenity responded with an airy laughing emoji before going radio silence. She did not want to get in the way of his work. Zachary had also quit the messaging. There was nothing to talk about since they hardly knew each other. His only hope was for a docile wife who would not trouble him over the pettiest things. He had no time to give her the time of the day. Placing his phone back on the table, Zachary lifted his head and noticed that all eyes were on him. Chapter 5. With his game face on, Zachary said, "Back to the meeting." Sitting nearest to Zachary was his cousin Callum. Among the cousins within the same age range as Zachary, Callum ranked second. Callum drew close and whispered, "Zach, I overheard your conversation with Nana. Did you really marry that Sarah girl?" Zachary shot him a glare. Scratching his nose, Callum straightened his back and ended the probing. Even so, Callum had nothing but sympathy for Zachary. There was no ED for the York boys to secure social and financial standing through marriage. But Zach and his new bride were not a match in every single way. Poor Zach. He merely knopped or married the girl because Nana took a liking to her. Once again, Callum offered Zachary his deepest sympathy through his thoughts. Thank goodness Callum was not the oldest in the family. Otherwise, he would have to step up to the plate and marry Nana's lifesaver. Unaware of all that, Serenity got the location details and was busy dragging her suitcase to get to her new home. She opened the door only to step into a spacious house. The place was bigger and more decked out than her sister's house. Putting down her suitcase, Serenity started by looking around the place. This was her home from now on. It had 2 living areas, 4 bedrooms, 1 kitchen, 2 bathrooms, and 2 balconies. Each space was broad and wide. Serenity estimated the entire house to be at least 2,000 square feet. The place was barely furnished as there was only a sofa set with a coffee table and a wine chiller in the living room. 2 out of 4 bedrooms were equipped with a bed and wardrobe, while the other 2 were empty. The master bedroom had en-suite facilities, complete with a walk-in closet, study, and bathroom. Despite the divided space, the master bedroom remained huge like the living hall. This must be Zachary's space. Serenity chose to live in the other room with a bed. The sunlight that came from the balcony brightened up the room. Fear was a room in between the master bedroom and the bedroom Serenity chose. This way, the newlyweds could enjoy their personal space. 8 half they were married in the eyes of the law. Serenity would not propose spending time as a married couple unless Zachary asked for it. After dragging her suitcase to the bedroom, Serenity went into the kitchen. The kitchen was squeaky clean without kitchenware in sight. Both balconies were also bare, but gave a roomy feeling due to the vast space. Serenity intended to spruce up the balcony with some plants and a swing. Nothing beat reading a book and taking in the botanic view on a swing during her free time. It appeared Zachary was rarely home for dinner. Now that she was occupying the space, home-cooked meals were a must. Serenity started with the kitchen by purchasing kitchen utensils online. As for plants on the balcony and other furniture, she wanted to get Zachary's take on it when he got home from work. It was his house after all, while she was simply crashing here. After placing an order on kitchen tools, Serenity looked at the time and needed to return to the shop. Picking up the keys, she grabbed her phone and rushed down the stairs. Serenity made it back to the shop in time for the after-school rush. Her best friend, Jasmine, inquired out of concern. "What were you up to? My sister and brother-in-law have been in constant argument because of me. I thought about it and decided to move out." Serenity shrugged. "So I moved out this morning." Her best friend's brother-in-law was the morning Saren? Something else. Yasmina sighed. Men love to tell women that they would take care of them, but when it comes down to it, they're the ones nagging and finding faults. After marriage, we women have to put family above all while grinning through misunderstandings. It's so unfair. I think your sister should find a job. Women must always be financially independent, so we have a say in the household. While speaking, Jasmine suddenly furrowed her brows and gave Serenity a confused look. "I can't believe your sister let you move out." "I got married." "Oh. What? You got married? You don't even have a boyfriend. Who did you marry?" Jasmine's mindless nodding was ensued with shock as she stared at Serenity wide-eyed. Her voice went high-pitched too. Knowing that she could not keep the news from Jasmine, Serenity came clean about the whole thing. Jasmine glared at Serenity for a while before poking the latter's forehead. I don't know where you find the guts to marry someone you met for the first time. You could have stayed with me if you couldn't find a place. I have extra rooms at my place. You could have also picked my cousin if you were looking for a husband. Chapter 6. Serenity said with a smile, "What do I need your cousin for? He has a girlfriend. It's too late now because the papers are signed. Keep it between us and don't let my sister know. I don't want her to be sad." Jasmine was speechless. Her best friend sure pulled one heck of a move. There are all those Lifetime movies and romance novels about blindly marrying a multi-billionaire. Maybe that's the case with you too, Saren. Smacking her best friend in the head, Serenity remarked with a grin, "I bet you read all the chicklit in the shop. Dream on about marrying a billionaire at first sight. Do you think the place is crawling with billionaires?" Jasmine rubbed on the bump and sighed as Serenity had a point. Jasmine then asked, "Where's your husband's place?" "Brinfield." "Not bad. It's a good neighborhood and easily accessible. Plus, it's not far from our shop." "Where does your husband work?" "He must earn a lot of money since he bought a house in Wiltspoon and in an expensive neighborhood like Brinfield." "What are his wages like?" "Do you need help with the mortgage?" "Saren, get your name on the title deed if he wants you to contribute to the mortgage. It's to protect yourself. Not tea to jinx it, but you won't get anything when you guys fall out and divorce since it's a prenuptial property." Studying her best friend's face, Serenity answered, "You sound like my sister. He bought and paid the house in full, so there's no mortgage. I don't think it's nice to put my name on the title deed when I didn't spend a dime on it." Jasmine replied, "It won't matter if the husband and wife get along." It struck Serenity that her brother-in-law bought the family house before marriage. He was also paying the monthly house loan, but the renovation was paid with Liberty's money. Still, Liberty was not named on the property deed. With her mind harking back to her brother-in-law excising Liberty of blowing cash, Serenity began to worry about her sister. She ought to bring it up to her sister one of these days. Serenity closed the shop at 11 o'clock at night. Since Jasmine's home was nearby and a family member was buying her dinner, Serenity told Jasmine to get on home. Having shut the main door, Serenity took out her keys and walked to her e-bike. She rode for 20 minutes until she arrived downstairs at her sister's place. It was only when Serenity parked the bike that she realized she no longer lived there. Lifting her head, Serenity glanced at the floor her sister was on and found that the lights were out. Although feeling down, Serenity left the family of 3 to be and rode her bike into the night. It was midnight by the time she reached Brinfield. She was welcomed by darkness as she pushed the door and entered the house. It did not feel like anyone lived in this space. Grabbing her pajamas from the suitcase, Serenity took a hot shower and allowed the weariness to rock her to sleep. Meanwhile, flanked by bodyguards, Zachary walked out of the Wiltspoon Hotel, which was owned by his family. He had just closed a big deal with a major client and arranged for the client to stay in the presidential suite. With his new wife coming into mind, Zachary decided to take a trip home. "Sir, will it be the estate or IHE Hilltop Villa?" The estate was the York's family home, while the villa on the hill was a property belonging to Zachary. His permanent domicile was the villa, but he would catch up and have dinner with the elders of the family at the estate every now and then. To Brinfield,